Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program. And this is the weekly radio show that informs and it educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. And it does it with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, most people choose agents that they know, like a friend, but they don't really have a system for selecting the best agent to handle one of their largest assets, that is their home. What are some ways a home seller can determine how to choose a real estate agent to sell their home and make sure they've got a great one?
Well, in 2020, I'd say the end of 2020, all the way through 2022, it was pretty easy to sell a house. There wasn't much to it. You put it on and you had a dog pile of buyers, and it was fun if you're representing somebody to sell a home. But the market definitely changed when the rates went up, which made the payments unaffordable for buyers. So buyers are fewer and much further in between. And the problem is with the increase of inventory, increase of interest rates, even though the prices are ticking up a little bit, the buyers aren't jumping on properties like they used to. And because the real estate industry has a turnover of over 80% every 5 years, many of these agents that are in the business right now have never seen a market that's softer, slower, correcting. They've never seen it and they don't know what to do. So they look back at historic sales and go, oh, your home should sell for this much. Throw it on the market and it sits there and it sits there and it sits there. Now, I'm not blaming all the agents for it. Sometimes it's the sellers insisting on a certain price, and that's okay. There's not much, but the market is going to tell you almost instantly if you didn't price it correctly based on the volume of people willing to come and take a look at the home. So in a seller's market, just to explain kind of what these terms mean, a seller's market just means that the seller has the advantage in the negotiation. So that's what we saw when the rates were 2.5%, 3%, and everything was just flying high and prices were just going up exponentially. But it was kind of this artificial thing that was created by the government artificially holding down the interest rates, and the payments were more affordable than rent. So that caused buyers to make higher and higher offers and drove the prices up over time. So that was a seller's market like we'll never see again. A buyer's market is when the buyer has the advantage. The buyer has an opportunity to negotiate more. The problem I run into personally is, I'm helping the sellers decide on what's a good price for the home. So how can we tell if we priced it right? If we're getting offers, if we're getting interest, if we're getting demand right away, we priced it right. If it's just sitting there, no requests for showings, no showings, nothing going on, it's not priced right. And the buyers are finding better, the buyers that are out there right now are finding better options. So that doesn't necessarily mean that a buyer gets a discount. So I got a phone call from an agent the other night, and he wanted to negotiate with me on the phone, which I don't like that, Richard. You know from your legal background that real estate has to be in writing, correct?
Absolutely, positively. No question about it.
Right. So he's like, well, why don't you call the seller and ask the seller if they will pay $15,000 of the buyer's closing costs? Because if he won't, we're just going to go to this other house. So just call him and ask. And I said, well, I can't, first of all, I can't speak for the seller on what they will or will not do. I already knew that we had offers on the house before, so we were priced right on. I didn't know whether or not he would do any concession from there. But to have this guy, he's like, well, I work in the commercial space and I do this all the time. We just talk about it. And I said, no, no, no. I said, it's not real. Because what if I go back to the seller and go, hey, we're getting an offer and all they want is this. What do you think? And they say, okay, we can make that work. I go back to them. And then he's like, well, you know what? They decided to make an offer on another house because he'd already told me they had three that were on a list. So wouldn't you find that very disappointing, Richard?
I would be incredibly disappointed. I mean, you want all of this to work out for your benefit, and you want the people around you to be doing everything they can. And if they have to represent you to somebody who's got a different interest, that's their job.
I've had agents actually say, well, should I be bothered? Should I waste my time writing an offer? And I'm just so you know that there's electronic software, even though it's a 20-page contract, it's a form fill. It takes about 10 minutes to write an offer. And I'm like, in my mind, I would love to say this to them, but it would be offensive. I'd love to say, really, you're going to make $15,000 to $20,000 and you can't be bothered to spend 10 minutes writing a contract. You want to negotiate with me on the phone, which isn't real. Because what if another buyer comes along in the interim? And now where are we at? If I come back and say, oh, yeah, the seller will do that. Now we got this other offer, right? It has to be in writing. They all know that. They learn that in real estate 101, but it's kind of like a game. It's a strategy. And I wouldn't play. I've refused. I said, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm just not. And when I did ultimately talk to the seller about it, he goes, well, I can tell you what my answer is right now. It's a hard no, you know. So there is this expectation right now because there are fewer buyers that the buyers get a discount. But it's sort of like they're making that request in a bubble. They haven't researched what that home is actually worth. It was priced slightly below market. So one of the things I said to him is, I know it will appraise above asking price. If you have a cash problem, if your buyer has a cash problem and they need closing costs, you can go up in price. There won't be any problem. But he didn't like hearing that. He was convinced, he can obviously convince his buyer to move on, but I just don't, there is no training in the real estate industry to speak of. It's not done on a regular basis on the things that the public expect that agents actually know. Things like marketing, handling objections, closing, negotiating, servicing from contract to closing, all those things. There's no training on it. They have to figure it out. There's actually no job description to be a real estate agent. It's just a license, basically, and they all go out there and wing it. So when a seller is making, or a buyer really, is making a decision about who is going to handle one of their largest assets, there's some hard questions that they should be asking. They should be asking, tell me what you know about the market. What's going on in the market right now? I know because I look at it in detail every single week, sometimes more often. If you listen to the talking heads on the radio and YouTube and stuff like that, there has been a huge increase in prices in the last 4 years, but there's also been a huge increase in the population of home buyers out there right now. And a lot of them can't buy because it's unaffordable. So what we are seeing with the higher interest rates is more supply, less demand at this time. But if you look at how fast Trump is moving right now, I think that could change on a dime. So if you see a house out there that you like, I wouldn't hesitate because there are some lenders that are throwing out 1% off the interest rate to make it affordable for you. But you need to talk to an agent that knows how to get you into those resources. A lot of people would like to have a very experienced real estate agent. 81% of the agents that are selling, which is only half of them in this market, sell 3 or less homes a year. That's not very good, is it, Richard?
No, and I want somebody who has been through this year after year, knows the ins and outs, the little pitfalls, the things that can go wrong, and what to do if that happens.
Right, because the buyers don't know. They're like, hey, we're qualified, we're good to go, And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like I had a buyer recently that was looking at a property that was, how should I say, very rough, very, very rough. And they're getting a government loan. I'm like, this house won't qualify for that loan. The septic system doesn't work. It looks like the one bathroom is completely torn apart. And they're like, oh, they didn't know that. So I think buyers get excited about the buying process when it's time, but most agents are not trained to sit down and educate them to go, okay, these are the parameters that you're going to have to look in to get that type of loan. So I'm selling homes all the time. Sometimes they're selling over or at asking price. Some sellers are willing to give concessions. Some are not. It really depends on how long the home has been sitting on the market. But the biggest mistake that I see home sellers and buyers do is they just hire somebody because they know them without really looking at their credentials, expertise, experience. I'm not talking about years of experience. I'm talking about how many sales that they've had, how much exposure have they had to actually doing this work. And so it's good to ask the hard questions. And it's okay to, interview people. A lot of people are not very familiar with the process. They don't do it very often. So you want to have somebody guide you through the process. So it's okay to ask hard questions because whether the seller pays the commission or the buyer pays the commission, it is expensive, but it can be rolled into the cost of the loan. However, the buyer ultimately is paying for it when they buy a house. So I think at the end of the day, they should be very careful about who they work with in the real estate world right now. And what we offer on our website is this agent selection guide. You can go to barbhasthebuyers.com, click on the green button in the upper right-hand corner and look for that report. And it will help you ask the right questions so you actually find the agent that can help you. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And we're talking about why do you need a well-qualified real estate agent when you're selling your home? Barb, some other reasons that people selling their homes need to choose a really great agent.
Well, I think if you're selling, the big thing that you need to understand is that buyers eliminate homes online. A majority of them start their search online, and you have less than a minute to make an impression. And it could be just a simple, dumb thing that's enough to make the buyer say, nope, I don't like that house. I'm moving on, grabbing another one. Little bits of clutter, pictures of pantries full of stuff, just all kinds of stuff that most agents really don't really study marketing that much. And they're not sure how to present the home. You don't have to include every picture. You want the pictures that make the home look, really, really nice. And it is one of the largest assets. So that's why the internet exposure is absolutely critical. The other thing when you're working on the buyer side, a lot of buyers like working with us because we have over 300 homes that are up on our cash offer platform of home sellers looking to sell their home, but they don't want to do the traditional sales process and have a bunch of random people come through their house. So the buyers that sign with us actually have an opportunity to bid on those homes. So they might be able to find their dream home and not have to compete with other buyers looking at homes on Zillow and Realtor.com. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. We'd love to talk with you. We'd love for you to interview us at barbhasthebuyers.com or 719-301-3900. Richard?
Barb, tell us a little bit about your hot new listings. These are great listings. Every week you tell us about them. What do you have this week?
Oh, I'm so excited. So I have a really cool home that's actually owned by the VA, and it's on Domekite off of Northgate, very close to off of Interquest, very close to In-N-Out Burger. Beautiful, brand new place that's ready for its new buyer. A gorgeous two-story home in pristine condition in the mid-forest, close to the Air Force Academy on White Peak. A gorgeous home on Crandall Drive at 424,999. It has a finished basement very close to Fort Carson and Peterson Air Force Base, an adorable cabin on an acre and a half up and divide on Friar Tuck. This home is in perfect condition. It's the perfect getaway cabin or a place to live full time. We also have a beautiful home on Royal Troon in Pueblo. This gorgeous custom home has plenty of space. It's in pristine condition and ready for its new buyer. We also have a beautiful home on Almagre Peak, very close to the Air Force Academy and Northgate off of Voyager. Another fabulous home in Westcliff on County Road, 1201 County Road. And this home actually is spectacular. It's just a mile away from some of the most prestigious hikes down there in that mountain range. And it's only 2 years old. It has a barn, it has fencing, cross fencing, main level master. It is spectacular. We also have a gorgeous custom home up in Perry Park on Winged Foot that has amazing views of Garden of the Gods type rock formations, plus a gorgeous home on Hunter Jumper. This is a great home if somebody doesn't want a big yard, but it's in pristine condition. We have a beautiful home on Camfield Circle, which has spectacular views, and an absolutely amazing home on Sunbird Hills, priced just under 1.6 million with 5-car garage. You could actually have people live on the lower and the upper levels and spectacular views. So if you're interested in any of those homes or any of our sneak peek properties coming up, go to barbhasthebuyers.com or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. Airs every Saturday, 11 to noon, right after Kudlow. And if you're thinking making a move, call Barb, 719-301-3900, or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker, or you can listen to the podcast if you missed any of it. It's on platforms like Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thanks for listening. And again, to reach out to Barb, 719-301-3900. Barb, great talking with you. Thanks to everybody for listening. Have a great week, Barb.
Thank you. You as well.